Hi, and welcome to Day 5 of the Disney Storybook Advent Calendar. For Day 5, we have Disney's Peter Pan. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be around for the next story. There once was a house in London where the Darling family lived. There were Mr. and Mrs. Darling and their 3 children, Wendy, John, and Michael. Watching over the children was Nana, the nursemaid, who also happened to be a dog. This was the home that Peter Pan often visited. He chose this house for one very special reason. There were people there who believed in him. Wendy would tell stories of Peter Pan and his adventures in a magical place called Neverland. Peter loved to sit in the shadows and listen. One night, while the Darling children were sleeping, Peter Pan and his fairy friend, Tinker Bell, slipped into the nursery. Peter had left his shadow behind the last time he visited and had come back to find it. Suddenly, Wendy woke up. "Oh, Peter, I'm so glad you came back tonight." She had been keeping his shadow safe. Carefully, she sewed Peter's shadow back onto his feet. Wendy explained to Peter that tonight was her last night in the nursery, as she had to grow up the next day. Peter suggested she join him in Neverland, where she'd never have to grow up. Wendy woke John and Michael so that they could come too. Peter then sprinkled the children with Tinker Bell's pixie dust so they could fly. Soon they were flying out of the window. Peter, Tink, and the children soon arrived at Neverland. Michael spotted a pirate ship. The captain of the pirate ship was Peter's greatest enemy, Captain Hook. "Blast that Peter Pan," said Hook as he studied a map of Neverland. "If I could only find his hideout, I'd trap him." Captain Hook got his name because he had a hook where his hand should have been. A crocodile had bitten it off long ago and was still after the rest of him. Luckily for Hook, there was an alarm clock in the crocodile's belly, so the pirate could hear the hungry reptile coming. Meanwhile, Peter Pan had taken Wendy to see the Mermaid Lagoon. But John and Michael had no interest in mermaids. They wanted an adventure with Peter's friends, the Lost Boys. The friends marched through the forest. Then the Lost Boys and John made a plan. They would be very clever and capture the natives who lived in Neverland. However, the natives caught them first. The Lost Boys explained that it was just a game. The natives always let them go. But this time the chief wouldn't set them free. He thought that they had kidnapped his daughter, Princess Tiger Lily. Nearby, Peter was showing Wendy the Mermaid Lagoon. Suddenly he spotted Hook and Smee rowing by in a small boat. Tied up in the back was Princess Tiger Lily. Peter and Wendy went to see what Hook and Smee were up to. Sure enough, Hook was holding Tiger Lily prisoner. He had tied her to a rock in the sea and was asking her about Peter Pan's hideout. Hook thought she could tell him where it was. Peter set off to rescue Princess Tiger Lily before the tide came in. Peter Pan drew his sword and fought Captain Hook back and forth. Wendy could barely watch and gasped as Hook lunged at Peter. "I've got you this time, Pan!" cried Captain Hook, forcing Peter near to the edge of a cliff. But Peter danced out of the way, into thin air. Suddenly, Captain Hook tumbled off the cliff. Smee picked him up in the rowboat, and the crocodile started to chase them. While they rowed away, Peter rescued Princess Tiger Lily and flew her back to her father, with Wendy following quickly behind. The chief was so pleased to get his daughter back that he gave Peter a headdress and proclaimed him Little Flying Eagle. Wendy, John, and Michael watched happily as their friend received his award. But not everyone joined in the celebrations. Back aboard his pirate ship, Captain Hook was hatching an evil plot to get rid of Peter. Hook had lured jealous Tinker Bell into his lair and promised that he would get rid of Wendy. if she would tell him where Peter's hideout was. But as soon as Tink told him, he locked her in a glass lantern. Meanwhile, at Peter's hideout, Wendy realized she and her brothers had to go home soon. She sang about the wonders of a real mother until even the Lost Boys wanted to go to London. Only Peter wanted to stay. One by one, the Lost Boys, Wendy, John, and Michael, left the hideout, only to walk right into the arms of waiting pirates. Captain Hook and his pirate gang led the prisoners away and tied them to the mast of his ship. Wendy believed Peter would save them, but Hook explained he had left a present for Pan, one that would explode soon. From her glass cage, Tinker Bell overheard Hook's plan. She was furious. She knocked over the lantern, and with a crack, she was free. Tinker Bell reached Peter's hideout just in time. He was about to open the package. She tried to pull the package away. There was no time to explain, but it was too late. The box began to smoke. Suddenly, kaboom! The explosion was so huge that it rocked Hook's ship. Captain Hook smiled. He then made Wendy walk the plank. But there was no splash. Peter Pan had flown to save her. He set Wendy down safely, then flew up onto the rigging. Hook scrambled up after him and drew his sword. As Peter and Hook clashed swords, Wendy, Michael, John, and the Lost Boys battled it out with the other pirates. Suddenly, Captain Hook lost his balance and fell into the water, where a familiar crocodile was waiting. Everyone cheered, and it was soon time to go back to London. "Michael, John, we're going home," said Wendy, smiling. "Man the capstan! Hoist anchor!" cried Peter to his crew. Tinker Bell flew around the ship, sprinkling her magical dust as she went. Then up, up, up went the ship, and, as it rose, it began to glow like gold. Back in London, Mrs. Darling found Wendy asleep by the window. Wendy told her parents all about their wonderful adventure in Neverland. As they looked out of the window, Mr. Darling noticed a ship made of clouds. "You know," said Mr. Darling, "I have the strangest feeling I've seen that ship before." And indeed he had, when he was just a young boy. I hope you liked the story. I know I did. If you want to hear more stories, make sure you like and subscribe and click that notification bell, and you'll get a message whenever the next story comes up, which will be tomorrow since we're doing an advent calendar. See you then.